where he attended. And in their foyer, they had a plaque on the wall of all of the service personnel who had died in service, and they had a little flag next to them. And these were just members of their community that were there. So this little 7-year-old was standing there, and he was looking up at the plaque, and he'd been standing there for quite a while, and the minister noticed that he was curious about it. And so he went over and said to him, "I noticed that you've been standing here." And they did a little formal greeting, and the minister says, "I noticed that you've been standing here for a while looking at the plaque." And the little boy says, "Yes." He says, "What does all of this mean?" And the minister says, "Well, these are members of our community who have died in service." And so the little boy stands there and he continues to look. And then he looks up at the pastor and he says, "Was it the 9 o'clock or the 11 o'clock service?" Out of the mouths of babes. And so as we shift our focus this morning to looking at some of the barriers that we encounter in voicing our truth and overcoming silence, it's an opportunity to identify the transformative power of speaking out our individual and collective liberation, to recognize that there are barriers that keep us from voicing our truths as we participate and we will introduce practical strategies to overcome some of these. Ernest Holmes offers this encouragement in The Essential Ernest Holmes on page 71, where he writes, "We should be able to look at a wrong condition with the knowledge that we can change it." We should be able to look at a wrong condition with the knowledge that we can change it. And then he also identifies in our Science of Mind statement of belief, also known as the Declaration of Principles, we believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation, or they modernize the word to freedom, from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. And this may seem like a lofty challenge, and I know that we're up to it, because we're spiritual beings living in this human experience. And the spiritual application of these home statements invites us to recognize that true liberation, individually as well as collectively, demands more than a passing belief. It requires proactive engagement and transformation. The vision for freedom from discord requires us to move from mere ideas to practical and active participation in creating a world where freedom from discord becomes a reality. Transcending silence embracing our voices to address and resolve conflicts allows us to contribute to the collective shift towards harmony and equity by speaking up and taking action, ensuring freedom and justice for all. And so I would like to offer some practical strategies. And before going into that, just want to set a little background for you. Currently within our religious science ministerial listserv, there's a discussion going on about remaining pure to the teachings of Science of Mind and the teachings of Ernest Holmes, or embracing a liberation theology, moving more into the area of social activism or social awareness. And this is causing some consternation within some of our communities. And of course, it's like in every other organization, you have your conservatives or your, sometimes we would jokingly say our religious scientist fundamentalist. No connection with the fundamentalists in the more traditional Christian religion, but those who are more of a purist to the teaching. And then you've got the more liberal side and the more progressive side that says, spiritual liberation and social activism is part of the sacred contract that we have as spiritual communities. It's not anything new. It's something that maybe hasn't had the focus of the current focus that is going on now. And so I believe that it can be a both and rather than an either or, a both and. As we're called to demonstrate love and care for those who do not have a voice or do not have access to a voice to advocate for them, because this again is rooted in sacred tradition. And so my talk today is going to include some of those elements. It's going to include a both and. And so let's begin by looking at the consequences of silence. In the presence of conflict or injustice, which perpetuates systemic issues and inhibits personal and collective growth, when silence is used as a default, it continues to perpetuate the conflict or the injustice. Choosing not to speak up or taking a passive stance inadvertently contributes to continuing harmful patterns and inequities, allowing issues to fester, perpetuating unresolved grievances and suppressed voices, and preventing meaningful progress. And when I make a statement like that, our minds probably go to what is happening in our country right now, the divisiveness between the conservatives and the liberals. And I'm not going there. I'm inviting us to look within our own individual community and see where it is that we may have remained silent. And we have perpetuated those situations where unresolved grievances have not been voiced, have not been brought to the surface, which has created divisiveness, has created a situation where we are out of harmony and out of alignment with each other. So our work, whatever our work is, begins at home. And what better place than to start in our own spiritual communities by healing those things that divide us and focusing our attention on what unites us, and that is the teachings and the practices of the science of mind. Overcoming silence opens a pathway to healing and transformation, fostering bold spaces where dialogue, understanding, and growth can thrive, creating a more equitable and harmonious world. Finding and raising our voice in prayer is a way to contribute to a thriving and harmonious world. Ernest Holmes offers this in The Power of an Ideal on page 78. And he wrote, "Spiritual mind treatment, which is affirmative prayer, is based on the premise that through thought, we deal firsthand with first cause, the power that creates everything. Spiritual mind treatment is based on the premise that through thought, through our thinking, through our awareness, we deal firsthand with first cause. First cause is spirit. First cause is God. And this is the power that creates everything. So when we're tapping into that power, when we are aware that we are one with this power, that we are one with this love, through our prayers, we are inviting and contributing to a thriving and harmonious world. Another point is to recognize that silence in the face of issues erodes trust and creates missed opportunities with relationships and limits opportunities for positive change. Remaining silent, we risk misunderstanding and unmet expectations that damage the foundation of our connections. On the other hand, we're also to be mindful of when it is best to remain silent and not create additional conflict. And I'll share a personal experience that I'm going through right now. And sometimes I use the example of shifting the halo. You know, ministers and practitioners like to think that we have this halo, and sometimes the halo gets shifted. So I'm experiencing one of those halo shifts. I shared something on our ministers listserv, and one of the responses came back with an idea, or actually with an activity that I guess disturbed a lot of people. And as a result of that, the initial thread was hijacked and taken into another direction. And I was not a happy camper because this was not what I asked for. I was really, excuse my expression, but I was really pissed that somebody else had come into my conversation thread to inject their own ideas and their own reactions to that, and it generated another stream. And finally, one of the ministers who spoke for me, I just recognized that, the minister spoke for me and brought it back on task by merely saying, excluding all of the conversations about going back to the original thread, this is what I am offering. And I go, oh, finally someone is able to speak for me where I can't speak. And of course I prepared, this response in my head, I'm gonna just blast this person on the listserv, and I go, no, that would not be a wise thing. And so one morning I was sitting in meditation, and in the meditation, my thoughts started creating a different response, something that was a little more pleasurable. And I go, this is not what I want this meditation practice to be. So I actually restarted the meditation clock and got back on purpose. And what came through to me was remembering what my prayer partner and practitioner suggested was to pause, pray, and respond rather than react. And so I have chosen not to respond, just to leave it as it is, because I ultimately got what I wanted. And when I look at it, okay, bottom line, did you get what you asked for? Yes, I got what I asked for. But as I'm going through these own difficulties, I lean into Psalms 141:3, and I'm quoting from the Contemporary English Version, which says, help me to guard my words whenever I say something. Help me to guard my words whenever I say something. And so barriers to speaking out and overcoming them support us in overcoming the fear of rejection, perceived power imbalances, or concerns about the potential fallout of speaking out. And I saw this quote from Neville Goddard that I would like to share. And it's from his book, The Law and the Promise, on page 47. And he wrote, the world will persist in exhibiting before you what you persist in affirming the world is. And so again, it's about our choice. Whatever we project out is what is going to be projected back to us. So if we project out love, love comes back. If we project out fear, fear comes back. If we project out harmony, harmony comes back. If we project conflict, conflict comes back. It's a reciprocal way that the world works for us. And so our proactive approach to building confidence and resilience is supported by our spiritual practices. We come back to the teachings of science of mind and the mysteries and the mystical revelations of our founder, Ernest Holmes, as well as all of the other avatars that we study. These spiritual practices assist us in developing self-awareness, recognizing the root causes of our fear, and creating a network of supportive allies and mentors who can provide encouragement and validation. And when we break it all down in this human experience, what we're seeking is validation. We know within ourselves that we are divine, that we're connected with the one, that we're created out of the source that creates everything. And yet, there's a part of the ego that wants validation. And so as we do our spiritual practices and develop our own inner validation, knowing that God is the love that I am one with the divine source. Whatever the affirmations are that you use to support ourselves brings us back into in harmony, brings us back to harmony, not in harmony, brings us back to harmony. And so I would encourage us to engage in small, manageable acts of communication that helps build courage over time. And so our call to action this morning, and when I offer a call to action, it's an invitation for you to go within and to identify those places in your own lives where this may be an area where I can do a little tweaking. It's not about fixing, it's not about correcting, because we're already whole, perfect, and complete as spiritual beings. Sometimes we need a little adjustment. As my meditation teacher says, sometimes our compass gets off kilter a little bit. So our spiritual practices and our calls to action bring us back to our set point. Overcoming silence opens the pathways to healing and transformation, fostering bold spaces where dialogue, understanding, and growth can thrive, creating a more equitable and harmonious world. Remaining silent, we risk misunderstandings and unmet expectations that damage the foundations of our connections. On the other hand, we're to be mindful when it is best to remain silent and not create additional conflict. A proactive approach to building confidence and resilience can provide encouragement and validation. So embracing these strategies empowers us to confront barriers and advocate for ourselves more effectively, ultimately contributing to a more open and transformative dialogue. You're not behind. You're not too late. You're exactly where spirit can grow. Keep listening, keep trusting, keep moving forward, one aligned step at a time. I invite us now to say our affirmation for the week together. We'll repeat it twice. I break the chains of silence with courage. My voice empowers myself and others to claim liberation. I break the chains of silence with courage. My voice empowers myself and others to claim liberation. I invite us to take in a breath together, breathing in and releasing it. Let us do that again, a deep, deep breath, breathing in and releasing. And in this release, let us know that there is a power and a presence for good in the universe. I call it the infant mind or the intelligence of God. And each one of us is an inlet and an outlet to this creative mind, to this creative intelligence. And so I speak my word this morning for harmonious and peaceful relationships in all of our lives. And that we have the courage to raise our voices in collaboration, to raise our voices in harmony, to speak for those who do not have a voice, to speak for those whom we do not yet know, and to know that we truly create a world that works for everyone exactly where they are. I speak my word knowing that each one is whole, perfect, and complete in the mind of spirit. And so we step into our wholeness, we step into our completeness, knowing that love and only love prevails. I speak my word for communities that are gathering in the name and nature of the one love, knowing that as we travel this road together, it may appear that we're traveling individual paths, and in some sense we are. But those paths that we travel are traveled by seen and unseen spirits walking along with us. And so I call forth this morning the guidance of the ancestors to be that shield, to be that armor, to protect us as we travel along this journey. I call forth the infinite intelligent wisdom that is within each one of us. It says, this is the way that I will walk. This is how I choose to show up. This is the place where love is. I am a representation of the divine. And for those who are experiencing transitions in their lives, especially the transition of a loved one who has stepped off of this mortal plane into infinity, each time we bring forth a memory of a time shared together or time shared together. This, I believe, is a representation of eternal life, because our loved ones live on in our memories and in our hearts. And so on this Memorial Day weekend, as we call forth the memory of those men and women who died in service to our United States of America, not only do we open our hearts with gratitude and love, as we remember them, we remember their families, we remember their loved ones, and remember most of all that it was out of love that they gave their service. And so for this and so much more, I am grateful. I release this word knowing that my word is a power unto the law, and it cannot and will not return to me void. Therefore, I let it go. I see the demonstration that is happening right here and right now, and I just allow it to be. And if anything that I have said resonates with you in any way, let us affirm it together by saying, and so it is, and so it is. Another thank you this morning to another brave soul who placed a treatment in the treatment box last week. I appreciate, keep them coming. As a minister colleague would say, whenever there was a gift, a blessing that he received in his life, he would always say, thank you, Papa, send some more. So thank you for the treatment request, send some more. And as we shift now into our opportunity for participation in our service here in the center, as well as those who are viewing online, this is our time to share our abundance, to share the gifts and the blessings in the form of finances that we have been blessed with. And I invite us to say together our affirmation of abundance. I recognize the presence of God within as the source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And so we invite you to, as the greeter passes the collection basket here in the center, we invite those who are part of our viewing audience to contribute to the support of this spiritual community, which is our collective spiritual community. You may mail in your donations, and the information is on our screen to our physical address. You may text to give, and you may give online. And I want to make this appeal while we are live on Facebook and on YouTube, because we invite our collective community to participate in this. I'm sharing with you a statement from our president and from our board of trustees collectively. Dear friends, we know that our spiritual home is showing some age. And during the recent rains, we have found several leaks in our roof. And the leaks have created some, what do I want to say, damage. Yeah, be truthful. Water creates damage where it goes and settles for a while. And so we are launching this morning, we have an estimate of $4,500 to repair the roof. So we are launching our campaign between now and September, before the rains start, to raise the $4,500. And so we're asking you to give above your regular contribution to the center. Give above that what you can to support us in raising the $4,500 to repair our roof. We thank you for that. We appreciate your continual support of our community. And in addition to repairing the roof, we also bring this message through your contributions. You help us to bring this message out into the larger world, to remind each one that I am an individual expression of God, living, moving, and having my very experience and beingness as the life of God. And so to our YouTube and Facebook communities, we invite you to join us next week as we begin our June theme, In Living Color. Some of us may remember that sitcom from the 70s, I believe that it was. And that is our theme. Being born with a different skin color, hair texture, gender expression, or sexual orientation can often come with the experience of oppression. This month, in June, we're invited to cast away the consciousness of exclusion and celebrate unity, diversity, and our unique expressions. And so we invite you to see our newsletter for more information and a listing of our weekly and monthly events. And for those of you who may be traveling to the Monterey area as the destination, we invite you to join us here live at 10:30 a.m. on Sunday mornings. And so we say to you, we love you, we thank God for you, and enjoy a marvelous, spirit-filled and guided week.